Hey, welcome back, everyone. If you've been following along, um, you know, I think in the last video I did for part seven, kind of, I either directly said it or indicated that it would be the last one in for this story, Shrimp of the House Recall. Um, but I kind of can't help myself. I feel like talking, and I think this is going to be a bit of I don't want to say technical, but I think I kind of do want to go through my process of doing a cover, and I know I've done a few of these with different books, but I am kind of doing something a little different here. So I'll give you a glimpse. I'm sure you've read the book and you've seen what I've done, but when I finished the last page last night, I kind of decided to start on the covers, get a little bit of a head start, and I have to admit I probably should have just gone to sleep and come at this fresh because I was really tired when I decided to do this. Um, I got it in my head that I was going to do that this story was sort of going to be a callback to the very first one. So, in my fatigued mind, I started playing with the filters in GIMP. And, at the time I kind of liked this, and I'm still a little like, my head is still a little groggy. I can't seem to kind of really get a full restful night's sleep lately. So, I told myself I sat and printed these covers, not printed, but like put these together. Figured if in the morning I changed my mind, it wouldn't be that big of a deal to use the source images and come up with a clean, regular cover. But part of me kind of likes the look. Like, it harkens back to those early days, like I was saying, when I wasn't really serious with the covers. Basically, what I was doing was just taking images I thought looked interesting, blowing them up and throwing a filter on them to sort of simulate like the variant cover idea that you see in mainstream comics. I can't remember when. I think it was The Babysitter where I started taking the covers more seriously and used them as an opportunity to sort of provide additional content sort of outside the story. But I think what my mind kind of likes here, and and I know I'm stretching this a lot, but whereas the subtitle recall refers to the recall on the device, it does also mean like, I recall when things used to be like this, so like having the cartoonish, almost sepia overtones is sort of a nod to that definition of recall. Um, so what I'm doing is I'm actually working somewhat backward through the book. So, when I started last night, I started on page 7 because I was in that I was already in that bedroom scene. All I had to do was just move the quote unquote toys around. a little bit more. I didn't have to worry about resizing David. There wasn't really as much staging as I've done in some covers because I already had the scene there. So then I just basically worked backwards through the book because it was easier to resize David up than to go back to the beginning and size him down and that sort of thing. The one exception I had is so far I don't have the cover to book 5 because I want to create a scene from one of the other sets from the playground set. So it's, sticking with easier, it's easier to do all the covers dealing with the home set before going to a new one. Instead of doing it in order, opening up the playground set and then coming back to this one, because this file is so big, it can take almost an hour to open it and load all the temp texture files that Daz Studio creates. So, I'd rather not throw away an hour just to go back and forth. So, as of the time I'm recording this, I've got covers for 7, 6, 4, and this was the one I did for 3. So I've basically got book 1, 2, and 5, and then the main cover left to do. So about half the covers. I'm about halfway through the covers. And these interior covers, but the interior covers come off quickly because I'm not really picky. I'm not as picky as I am on that main cover. So when I do a main cover, a lot of times I'll go through, like, probably in the last 2 years, I'll probably go through a lot of different iterations before I settle on something that kind of clicks on all cylinders. Um, there's like a number of factors that go into the main covers. It's is I'm extremely, I try to be extremely picky on how everything is placed in relation to the text, the title, and the author name. And then 2, I need background colors that the title and the author name don't disappear into. Whereas in these interior covers, it just kind of lets some of it slide because I'm more interested in the image than in that sort of thing. So what I've been doing is going through and kind of trying to pick an image that encapsulates this part and I think showcases David's size change. I think in some books not I'm not always hung up on showcasing the change if the image kind of more accurately, is sort of a good representation of the story rather than the size change. But in this one, I've been sticking with the size change aspect. And so far, going backwards, I was afraid coming to this point, David's size change wouldn't be so dramatic that I couldn't find anything to focus on. So what I am thinking in here, so here I'm in part two, and I've got some good moments that I can represent. So I'm thinking, and I'm kind of curious. Oh, I see what's going on. So I'm thinking something like this. Um, so I'm thinking kind of this moment. Uh, although although I may put them in a different place, I'm thinking kind of that pose, and it doesn't have to be perfect. So here's where my numbering system is coming into play, because I've got to match David's size with the day. So this was day 8. If he's shrinking 2 inches a day, that would be 16 inches. But the second inch comes at the end of the day, so I think it's actually 15. And let's see. What I said about it being easier to resize David, I think in this case it's easier to reset him and then go from there. So scale is 1. Oh boy. Question is what? Okay, he's still wearing pants, so the smoothing modifier on these shorts is going to be annoying. So let's put him in the clothes before we move on. Um, these, right? Fit to. Okay. I should just delete these and get them out of the file, but I've saved this file independently of my main set. And I think he's wearing Aiden's shirt and he's wearing the brown one, right? Because sort of not doing all these covers at once, I didn't want to have to completely restage this if the program sort of crashed, closed overnight, something happened, and then had to start all over in staging it. Not that it's a big deal, but okay. So now we won't have the poke through showing us any, dealing us any terms of service violations. So I've got to go back 15, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay. So what I'm going to do is expand from selected and delete all the keys. Where are we? There we go. Um, so here's the question: is he wearing shoes? He is wearing shoes. Um, hmm. You know what? I don't need to put him in shoes because I'm not going to see them. can get away with this, so let's send him out here. So I think it was my feeling that the covers I was doing last night were actually coming off fairly quickly. And like I said, the main cover is usually the one that takes a long time because of changes. Because I'm never happy with it. It's got to be done a lot of times. I go through a lot of renderings before I get something I'm happy with. Ah, let's undo. I didn't want to delete him, but I wanted to collapse all. Let's just make these straight numbers to make it easy, 60 and 50. It's what I do to line up. Is I'll position I'll position them in the same spot and then just straight back like that. Um, no, you know what? Shoot. See, this is I really don't want to get. Um, See, I wouldn't mind putting his head up in here in this empty space, but that would entail. Come on. Yeah, this isn't gonna work. It's not gonna work with this close to the wall. Um, let's just move him over here. This is 140. So it's pretty much when I start on the cover process, I'll go into one of the previous projects and pull up the cover templates. Um, so I'll show you here, and then I'll sort of make the textural changes. So, like, um, um, usually I'll pull up if I'm doing Shrimp at the House, I'll pull up one out of the Shrimp at the House series and just change the subtitle, and then on the interior covers, change the numbers. Because with the Xmas special, I sort of used a different font for the title. I went back and pulled up one out of Showtime. So until I go and make the actual image and slip it in, I'm usually dealing with a picture from a previous project as the placeholder. So this was one of the covers for Showtime. And then what I'll do is sort of make the template and save each image. So it's just a matter of going into the folder, opening up the particular things, putting in the new image, and then saving it as a JPEG, and that's it. And that way I don't have to worry about accidentally overwriting the file for another page. So zoom in on these two. So it's gonna, yeah, I don't think this is gonna work. I think I'm just gonna have to sort of do something like this and bring them low. So the idea is when I sit and stage these, no, I don't want that. It's I got to keep in mind where the text is. So like in this image you're seeing here, I can sometimes get away with overlapping it with the hair, but I don't want the face getting him in hidden, or like in here, you see I'm able to kind of stage it so that these kids are framed nicely up in this space beneath the little box and between the title and the edge of the page. Um, and I think this is going to look better once I actually start posing Jackson and kind of bring his head down a little bit. And yes, I know what you're probably all thinking at home. I still haven't changed Jackson's shirt. Let's see, we want, and then if we bend this out, let's twist it a little bit. And there we go. And then I can twist this. And I don't need the exact, we're just going to have him smile. I think he's twisted a little too much. And this doesn't have to be perfect, but I think so there, and then the title should fit nicely up here. So this is cover 2, and with these covers I'm rendering in 3 to light, and it's some of these are taking a long time, others are going quickly. I am going to snip off, I'm going to cut out here, and we're just going to cut out the waiting. See how long this takes. So let's render that, and we'll be back in a second. Okay, so I've got the picture, and thankfully this one only took a couple of minutes to render, and it wasn't one of the 10-minute jobs, because I've had a couple of issues with this and had to rework it. I think the first being the light. The particular light I'm using is fine for OpenGL, but when I render in 3 to light for these covers, it does have limitations. So, I've had to make sure to move it and put it in the same spot where the characters are standing. And then, sure enough, I mentioned it, and sure enough, forgot to swap Jackson's shirt out. I think I was distracted there at the end before hitting render, and it's kind of like while talking to you guys was focused on something else. Anyway, so that had to be done. So now I've got the image here. I don't render these super oversized. I do render the cover images a little bigger than the page in case, like here, I can sort of adjust the image on the page without having to re-render it. I get a little room to maneuver the picture. So if it's like not quite centered where I want it, I've got a little wiggle room to move the image to where I want it. I'm going to bring his hair just slightly under the title, and that does it. So what I've been doing for adjustments, so first we'll go into color, and I want hue chroma, and we're going to adjust the chroma to 2.2, and that kind of brightens it a little bit, just slightly, not too much. And then we're going to go into filters. Under artistic, we're going to select cartoon, and the mask radius, we're going to shift it to 4. Hit OK. That gives us like the slightly cartoonish look. And then we're going to go back under colors, go to desaturate and sepia, and that gives me this look. So I'm going to hit OK, and just like with any other page, we're going to first save that, then go image and flatten, and then file, export, and hit enter, and export it. If you want to see what that looks like, let me just pop this into the folder. Here's cover 2. And actually, I think, well, so I think with the color adjustments, the color of his shirt doesn't really matter. But I think if ultimately at the end of the day I decide to take all these covers and use the original images, instead of this, then that's where it'll come into play. Sort of if I ever want to undo this in the future. But that's what the internal cover for part 2 looks like. Um, Now, I'm not going to promise, but I'm pretty sure this will be the last video I do for this story.